everyone. This is Jen Reaney, the Community Relations Coordinator with the Department of Services for Children, Youth, and their Families. We are continuing on with our discussions around mental health for Mental Health Month, and I'm really excited to have two experts from Aquila of Delaware with me. We're going to be talking about behavioral health and opioids, specifically around kids, and different strategies for preventive measures. So I'd like to just introduce them really quickly. I have Tom Morrison, who is the mobile outpatient therapist with Aquila, and Lynetta Fletcher, who is a mental health counselor with Aquila. Thank you both so much for chatting with me. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
I thought we could kind of kick it off just by talking about what are opioids and what impact they have on our bodies. So I'm going to just pull up your presentation and we could jump right in.
Okay, so I'll begin. Opioids are a class of drugs naturally found in the opium poppy plant. Some prescriptions opioids are made from the plant directly, and others are made from scientists in labs. Opioids are often used as medicines because they contain chemicals that relax the body and can relieve pain. Specifically, prescription opioids are used mostly to treat moderate to severe pain for individuals. Opioids are also one of the most common used drugs among youth, mainly used as a coping mechanism to kind of escape from their everyday challenge.
Definitely. And can you describe, what this kind of reaction has on our body and, some of the feel-good chemicals that our body, naturally produces, kind of how all of that comes together?
Well, opioids, they're naturally produced in the central nervous system and in various glands throughout the body, such as the pituitary and the adrenal glands. The chemical form of opioids given to the body can go to areas of the brain designed to receive this naturally. However, the body and the brain, it cannot tell the difference between natural endorphins and opioids. So similar to like an electric socket, it cannot tell the difference between a lamp or a television. When it is plugged in, it will activate. So whether a natural endorphin or an opioid, when it hits the brain receives it and it will activate. However, increased flows of opioids can cause some very detrimental behavioral and physical challenges, which we'll talk about a little later.
And those feel-good chemicals naturally boost your mood. So for example, when you're laughing or you're exercising, eating candy, your body naturally feels good and it sends those feel-good chemicals to the brain. Also, those feel-good chemicals are called endorphins. They are a type of neurotransmitter that produces feel-good chemicals to the brain to reduce pain. Opioids also produce that same type of feel-good chemical to the brain, but can be very addictive and cause physical harm to the body. So endorphins and opioids and the chemical balance kind of goes head and head.
Definitely. And how would you say, when you're talking about opioids and these feel-good chemicals, that we naturally produce, what are some things that kids should keep in mind and some of the long-term impacts of opioids?
Well, we would say that there's a loss in physical capabilities. So if you're a student and you're looking to be an athlete, opioids is definitely going to damage that. Poor sleeping habits, because they cause an increase in staying awake and anxiety. You can become very moody. It impedes on your ability to communicate. Poor school performance, and it limits your ability to keep a job. And overall, just your overindulgence in opioids, it can cause you to look very sluggish. Your physical appearance declines, and for lack of words, children can understand. I mean, you just look bad, and you don't want to be at your worst when you're interacting in society. So opioids is not the way to go.
Definitely. And I know, when we talk about, we're all home right now. We're all in a different element.
Mhm.
What are some measures that caregivers can take, to keep opioids away from kids, in the home, especially as we get into summer? Just what are some tips that we could all, take advantage of as we try to navigate kind of this new normal situation?
I think some specific things that parents can do while they're home in the coronavirus is to make sure that they're keeping medicine stored away from their children. So making sure that the kids don't have access to the opioid pills or any type of pill for that matter. Making sure they talk to their kids about the opioid use and its impact that it can have on their life and their families' lives. Because just having that real talk conversation can be very helpful, even for those kids who may not know about opioids right now, but can maybe, talk to a friend in the community and find out about an opioid, but having have already talked to their parents may prevent that child from experiencing opioid use. Also disposing of leftover medications. So if a parent is no longer taking a pain pill, making sure they flush them in the toilet and get rid of them instead of leaving them around the house. And then you can also pay attention to some of behavioral traits to kind of get an idea if your child is using opioids.
Absolutely. Because your child, they may be introduced to opioids from people outside your home. It could be friends, it could be YouTube, it could be social media, it could be other family members. So keep a close eye on behavior changes in your child. It could be a change in peer group, carelessness in their grooming, a decline in academic performances. They could be missing classes, skipping school. You start to see maybe a change in their eating or their sleeping habits. There's a decline in relationships with certain families, certain friends. They used to be outgoing, talking to a lot of people. And now you're seeing that for the most part, they're either in their room or they're staying around a specific individual, one or two people who previously you may not have known. So these are other things that you may want to keep an eye out for, because opioids, they can be undetected. There's not something that you see, but keep in mind, they can come in a pill form, a crush form, a liquid form. And so there are multiple ways that opioids can be put inside the body. So parents just have to keep a close eye on the behaviors that their children begin to exhibit when they're in front of them.
And I think specifically with the coronavirus too, that it's important for parents to check in with their kids just to see how they're doing mentally. It's been a strain on people, of course, nationwide with the coronavirus and the impact that it have had on people's jobs and just society as a whole. So just checking in with your kids to make sure how they're doing and how they're coping with the change as far, in regards to like distance learning in schools and, how that's making them feel and what are they doing to cope with that pain, is a good way to start the conversation in regards to opioid use.
Absolutely. And then the increase in anxiety that the
Yes.
coronavirus has led to, not knowing how tomorrow's going to look. There's a lack of normalcy, at least the normal that they've been used to. Coronavirus has been looked at as there's going to be a new normal. So that's unknown to a lot of our children. So there's going to be an increase in anxiety.
Yes.
And a lot of the children are just looking for an escape, and they're more so willing to try different things because as teenagers and youth, they're more outgoing and they feel that they can overcome a lot of things. And then they're also curious. So if offered the opportunity to try these drugs from others, we want to make sure that our children are informed and they're well educated about some of the causes that these drugs can lead to. And then look at other coping strategies, other coping skills to deal with the new normal that coronavirus and the COVID-19 restrictions will focus towards. It's not all that bad and we can get through it, but sometimes we just have to be that shoulder or that pillar for our children to let them know that they can overcome.
Yes.
I think that's so important. We are definitely all in this together and we have to stay connected and be open and just keep those conversations going and make sure people know where they can find support, during this time. I guess, what are some examples of, some questions that you can, ask kids? I mean, there might be some awkward this and talking about this, depending on different age groups, what are some ways to kind of break the ice and really, have a candid conversation with kids?
I think the first standard question can be, are you okay? Like, how are you dealing with the coronavirus? Because that's like the opener question to kids expressing like, it's getting on my nerve. I'm having a hard time focusing on schoolwork. I have high anxiety. And that just opens the door to get your foot in to start asking those questions.
Definitely. I think that'll be really helpful just to kind of, just to find out what's going on in their lives.
Yes.
To know that we're all, completely in new situations, virtual learning, maybe not seeing friends, it's a really difficult time. A lot of stressors on kids and caregivers.
Yes.
What are some ways, when we talk about like preventive measures and opioids, what are some things that, you suggest, that caregivers and kids can kind of pursue, during this time, to help them get through all these different stressors?
Well, in reference to the opioids, as parents, you want to definitely keep them out of sight and out of reach as far as any pills or anything that is prescribed and prescripted. Teach your children to not ingest or use any type of medication that was not prescribed for them specifically. Other coping strategies could be exercise. It could be, like we talked about in the early portion of the conversation, just those endorphins. Exercise that increases those feel good chemicals. It could be not overindulging, but just having a favorite food or a favorite candy bar or some ice cream. These kind of increase those feel good endorphins. Taking the time to watch a good movie or read a book, and just not allowing yourself to just be complacent. Continue to wake up on time. Try to have some type of schedule throughout your day to maintain some type of normalcy, so there isn't the moments where your mind starts to wander. You begin to feel depressed and anxious, and you're looking for a pill to be the answer. You want to just continue to focus on the things that are good for the body and good for you when you're interacting in your environment. All the while, we always have to remember, though, to remain safe.
Definitely. Do you recommend any, whether it's specific, like, mindful techniques or anything that you both have seen that would be helpful for kids to take advantage of during this time that might, help? I know it's difficult, even, I have a hard time getting on a routine myself. How do you kind of help, navigate all those different challenges?
I don't have any specific techniques that I would go to in regards to mindfulness, but just taking a deep breath, and like Tom said, figuring out a way to connect with the inner you, that positivity, and thinking before you act on things, learning to communicate your thoughts and your feelings, whether it be positive or negative, to your friends and family members who can be there to support you through whatever you need to go through or process through. Is helpful. I think also keeping a schedule, because you can lose track of time. I myself am guilty from having my nights confused with my days. So being up late at night and then being tired during the day. I know a lot of our students that we talk to most recently have their sleep throughout the day and they're up at night. So just talking to them about maintaining that same sleep schedule or discipline as they would if they were getting up and going to school may be helpful as well.
Yes, absolutely. And if there's additional help that may be needed, or someone to talk to, we have a emotional support line that we have here at Aquila, and they can reach out to us at area code 302-266-2556. And this is basically focused on individuals that need additional support during the COVID-19 pandemic. It's a free service. and children can call, adults can call for just some additional counseling and some additional support to be able to make it through this times. And we're all in this together. We're all
Yes.
focused on
Yes.
coming out of things in A+ shape. And even though it may seem difficult, this too shall pass.
Definitely. I think that's so important. And having resources like your warm line and just different ways where people can just reach out. It's so important to have that as a basis for people. How would you both kind of recommend kind of breaking the stigma of, talking about these issues? I know we kind of talked about, what parents could do, to try to, connect with kids on these topics. What are some ways, for kids to kind of, realize, within themselves that it's okay to have these conversations, it's okay to talk about mental health, and kind of break down those barriers to kind of move this forward, especially during this time?
I think that
Children, go ahead, Lynette.
I think that it's important to recognize and call out like those things that are causing kids to want to use in the first place. So dealing with those underlying issues as to why I feel the need to escape, why I want to drink alcohol, why I want to pop a pill, like what is the reason behind why you want to do it in the first place. I feel like if you deal with that, or if kids have an outlet for that, that can prevent them from using it in the first place.
Absolutely, because many people often start using opioids because their stress level is high and they want to relieve that stress. And but what parents may also need to know, and children as well, it's okay to let individuals know that you're having these difficulties. There are treatments for these addictions, and currently, right now, there's probably 300,000 people throughout America that are being treated for opioid usage. So therefore, it is something that does go on, but it doesn't have to be the end all be all. And you can get help, and there is help available if you're willing to reach out. Due to the opioid addiction, which is it's medically induced due to medication and pills, it can also be medically treated. And there are plenty of individuals that have recovered from opioid usage and been able to move forward and have a positive life.
Absolutely.
Definitely. I think sharing all of that information is such a great way to just break down the stigma. Mental health deals with your overall health, and, behavioral health.
Absolutely.
It's all connected, and
all connected.
And we all need to, when one piece is out of sync, it's just important to make sure that people know that they can get help, and these resources is really important. Is there anything you guys think would be important to note for kids and for caregivers, that we haven't talked about that might be good in terms of any resources they can go towards, or different strategies that might be helpful, as they navigate the COVID-19 crisis?
I really can't emphasize it enough, is our parents just being open to communication. I know some parents may come from a generation where you wanted your children to be seen and not heard. Well, in today's society, it's so much better. You build a relationship with your child. You're able to communicate it with a variety of things, and don't just point the finger or get frustrated or angry or upset if they're really crying out or they're coming to you with some issues. You want to be able to kind of work those things together as a family and work through them and seek help. If you feel like your back is against the wall and your child is needing additional support, seek the help that's necessary. Reach out to others who may be more qualified to handle the situation than yourself. And then there's also Instagram support that we have as well, since a lot of our children are on Instagram. It's called park_180, and that's basically prevention for at-risk youth to turn a 180-degree turnaround. It's available. There's plenty of beneficial information, some positive sayings and positive quotes on there. And we're also giving away different sports items, gift cards, a variety of things to just keep children and parents engaged.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
And I would just add on to that it's important for providers to also be aware of, kids are oftentimes being told what to do and not listen to. So even when you're doing that, you're communicating with the child, it's important that you listen and not be judgmental.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so important just to know when just to take a step back and just let someone kind of share exactly what's going on, and then you guys can kind of figure things out and help them move towards a solution. I think that's so helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you both so much for speaking with me on this topic. I think it's really insightful and important to know, just the root causes from, the brain and biological perspective, and then learning how we can, look at all these different strategies to help move through this time. So I really appreciate the time from both of you on this topic.
Thank you. We appreciate the invitation.
Awesome. Well, and thank you for everyone who's watching. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back with another session soon. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.